is Monday, April 25th. One complaint from Camp Tecumseh last week. What joyous times. Let's see. You have iLearn starting tomorrow. Here is our upcoming schedule. So English iLearn Tuesday, Wednesday. You start with iLearn tomorrow. And then you go to first period. Classes are like 25 minutes tomorrow. They are 24. Short. So not very long at all. Let's see. From that, the next week is Math iLearn Tuesday, Wednesday. The week after that is NWEA Tuesday, Wednesday, which would be English and then Math. The week after that, I tell you stories about my childhood. The week after that, it's summertime. So we're down to literally 4 weeks and then we're done, including this week. So that's why we're wrapping up Outsiders this week, and then we have another thing that we're going to read. We're going to read the next book in 2 weeks because it's really short and fast. And then we'll be done, and then we wrap stuff up. Your e-learning this week, so in case you are unaware, you are not coming to school this Friday because you have an e-learning day on Friday. My e-learning for you guys will be your Outsiders test, and so that'll be coming up on Friday. It'll be a little bit shorter than my normal test, probably closer to a longer quiz, just because it's e-learning and I don't want to make it go forever, ever. Just kind of forever. But we'll finish reading stuff this week. Let's see. Then, apparently we had issues with the sub being able to play a video where I went through and I explained things that happened because technology is a struggle. So I'm assuming that sub just told you guys to read and that was it?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about 5 and 6 because those are the ones in theory that you read. How many of you guys just watched the video of me doing it that was on there?
I read the second video, but the first video was like an hour.
You read the second video?
Yeah, all right. Because that just gives me an idea. I don't want to repeat things and make sure I cover stuff with you. And then we'll start with chapter 7 here in a moment. So we finished chapter 4 before I left, and this was the whole drowning incident between the Socs and the Greasers, where Johnny goes, oh, stabbo. And who is it that Johnny stabs?
13-year-old.
Bob. Now, why is it he stabs Bob?
Because he's drowning.
Now, here's where the issue comes in. Bob was not actually doing any of the drowning. It was one of the other ones that was out there, and he goes and stabs. So it's the same thing as, Selma is drowning Aiden, and I'm like, Aiden, I'm going to save you. But instead of stabbing Selma, I go over here and start stabbing Frisky. And I'm like, Aiden, do you feel saved yet? I'm going to keep stabbing until you feel safe. That's what Johnny does, because Johnny has an issue this way. Because what history does he have with Bob?
Beat him up.
Yeah, Bob's the one that beat him up last time, where he was like, it's never going to happen again to me over my dead body. I'm going to carry this sharp stick. And then Bob shows up, and he was like, I'm going to drown people. And Johnny's like, not over my dead. Oh, wait, not over your dead body. And then stabs him. And that's where Johnny kills him. Ponyboy at that moment is not guilty of anything. If Ponyboy wakes up and goes, oh, my God, there's a dead body, he's fine. Problem is what Johnny tells him as soon as Ponyboy wakes up. Did you know what Johnny told him when he woke up?
I killed somebody.
Yeah, not just I killed somebody. I killed that. He wakes up and he goes, I killed that boy with this knife. I killed him. I did it. He's dead because of me. I committed a crime with this knife. As soon as Johnny admits to the crime, Ponyboy is now responsible for that crime. The way the law works, if you know a crime has been committed, you have to turn him in. If you don't, then you are punished just as badly. Just like if you know your friend has a weapon at school and you don't say anything about it, and it turns out that they see it on camera of the friend showing you the weapon, you get expelled also because you have knowledge of it, even though it was not your thing. Just like if you know of a crime, you have to report it. So as soon as Ponyboy knows about crime, he has to turn Johnny in. Does he? No. Instead, he's like, we gotta run! And they high-five each other and like, let's run away! And that's where they take off and they run to Windricksville. And where do they hide?
The church.
In the old church, which apparently has ghost cabin here in front. That looks just like the little ghost cabin that you got. Right? Like a little ghost cabin thing there.
Oh.
And so they go running out to the church and hang out there for a week, and they read this book, which is like from the Civil War about old people killing each other. And then eventually, hydrogen peroxide. What do they use the hydrogen peroxide to do?
Bleach the hair.
And so the bleaching of the hair is more like if you go to the beach in the summertime, you go to the pool in the summertime, and it makes your hair get lighter. That's what it does. It's not going to make your hair do like this. It just makes your hair get a little bit lighter. But Johnny doesn't bleach his hair because at one point they say that he's part Hispanic or he's part a Native American, but he has darker skin. And he's like, with my dark skin, I can't dye my hair. I'll look weird. But he's like, Pony Boy, you're a lily white boy. You're perfectly fine because your blonde hair will work out. And so that's why Pony Boy dyes his hair, but Johnny does not. Back to church, and we get to the sunrise, and then they said the poem. With this poem, if you didn't watch the video of me going through with you, this poem plays a big role coming up and throughout the whole thing. And they keep talking about this last line, nothing gold can stay. If you go online and look up outsiders memes, about half of them are about being gold or something gold staying in some way, where it's going to connect back to that same idea. So the idea of this poem is, do you guys know what the Eden is, where it says, so Eden sank to grief? Garden of Eden. Where the Garden of Eden started off with Adam and Eve and everything was happy, and then they ate an apple and then they got thrown out and bad things happened. Same thing here, like nature, when it starts off, everything is green and beautiful, and then we get fall and everything dies. And so the fact that throughout there, the whole poem is telling you everything you love dies. Everything important to you goes away. All the happiness that you're going to find is short-term and disappears, which is depressing. But the poem's trying to tell you, hold on to the things that make you happy. While there is a thing that brings you happiness, hold on to it. While you're a kid and you're not paying taxes and you're not old and bitter, hold on to it. Find the things that make you happy and hold on to those happy things for as long as you can, because you never know when another happy thing is going to come along. Because nothing gold can stay, gold being your happiness. The idea is the things that bring you joy will eventually disappear, so enjoy them while you can. So it's trying to be uplifting. It just gets there by going a very depressing road. Who shows up to rescue them when they're staying in the church?
Dally?
Dally does. And so Dally, the only one who knows where they are, this is when he shows up in the Thunderbird and he brings the letter from Soda Pop, and they go eat at
Dairy Queen.
Dairy Queen, and they're hanging out there, and that's when, what is it Johnny decides he's going to do?
Turn himself in.
Yeah, and he was like, listen, I can't be on the, he's like, we've been on the run for 5 days, and it sucks. He's like, I can't keep doing this. We need to turn ourselves in. And Dally's like, if you turn yourselves in, you're going to get angry and old and bitter, and all your gold goes away. And they're in the middle of an argument when they get back to the church. And what's going on with the church?
It's on fire!
The church. Oh, I forgot. Dally is now carrying a gun, although he calls it a heater because he uses the slang. But, and this plays a role coming up, Dally says, I'm not an idiot with my gun. Do you know what he does with the gun?
He doesn't load it.
So he never keeps bullets with it, which plays a big role coming up, the fact that he keeps a gun with no bullets in it. Then we get back to the church. No, almost there. This is the car, and they're talking about Cherry. Because what is Cherry doing for the greasers?
She's a spy.
And so she feels bad, and so she's being a spy and helping them out. And this is the car they're talking about. So Cherry has money, because that is a nice ride. That's a Corvette. So go her. Now the church is on fire. And then we got to my favorite part in the book, which was the old teacher. And they're like, the church is on fire. Where are the kids? And he's like, nah, they're just children. And so you have the old guy who doesn't freak out at all. And I'm like, best teacher ever. And then they have to go into the church to save the children. And how do they save children?
Throwing them out windows.
Best thing ever. Throwing children out windows is beautiful. I wish I could save children like that. I would throw all of you out windows left and right. If I'd known that at camp, I would have just gone around just chucking you guys out windows. But that's how they go through and save the children, by chucking them out windows. And then before they escape, what happens to Johnny? He does not die. He just wants to die. Because the giant ceiling collapses on him and those beams fall on his back and they crush his back and paralyze him. Which is bad, but then he gets third-degree burns from the burning church, which is worse, but then it turns out he's okay because he's paralyzed and can't feel anything. So he's burned, which would be really painful, except he has no nerve endings because of the paralyzation. And it's like, yeah, oh, yay! It's like this little roller coaster of emotions you get to go through. And so now he's all... Oh, my other favorite part was how Dally puts out Pony Boy when Pony Boy is on fire coming out of it. And then Dally puts him out by punching him. Which again, if we ever have a fire here at school and you're on fire, come to me. I will put your fire out every time. And I will do it the Dally method, which is just punching you to make you hit the ground so you can stop, drop, and roll. Although Dally does punch, drop, and pass out, which is almost the same way. Did you have a question, Jameson, or are you just waving at me?
Yeah, I weigh 249 pounds. Do you think you can carry that?
I just got to swing your hand. You just got to grab by the feet and get started. Now, you might hit a few things, and I might miss the window a couple times, but I'm not going to give up, Jameson. I will keep throwing you at a wall until eventually either you make it through the wall or it's no longer a worry.
Did you say 249?
Yeah, it doesn't look like it, but I actually do weigh that much.
See? Then that's enough. I can swing it towards the wall and make a new window. We're good to go. All right. So then, now they get to head to hospital, and here's the part where I'm going to read with you. So I'm going to try and read as much as I can, because whatever I don't get done, you're going to have your stopping point for tomorrow is page 129. No, hang on. Finish chapter 8, which is 130. So but 130 is like all of 5 lines or 5 sentences. So your finish point is by 130. So we're going to try and get you as close as possible. Stop flexing on kids. All right. I'll read to you here. All right, so we're good. I can take it off the screen. I'm going to give you guys the little cheaty screen. There's the cheaty screen. Page 100. Now we're at the hospital, and we've escaped, and we've helped the children survive and stuff like that, except for the fact that the church collapsed on Johnny, and apparently Dally got burned while he was in the process of punching out Tony Boy. So now they're at the hospital waiting for the others to show up. Now there were 3 of us sitting in the waiting room, waiting to hear how Dally and Johnny were. Then the reporters and the police came. They asked too many questions too fast and got me all mixed up. If you want to know the truth, I wasn't feeling real good in the first place. I mean, kind of sick, really. And I'm scared of policemen anyway. The reporters fired one question right after another at me and got me so confused I didn't know what was coming off. Derry finally told them I wasn't in any shape to be yelled at so much, and they slowed down a little. Derry's kind of big. Soda Pop just kept him in stitches. He'd grab one guy's press hat and another guy's camera and walk around interviewing the nurses and mimicking the TV reporters. He tried to even pick up and lift a policeman's gun, and then grinned so crazily when he was caught that the policeman had to grin too. Soda can make anyone grin. That is not something I recommend. If you run into Officer Alicia here at school, don't try and take her gun. No matter how much you grin and smile at her, it is not going to end that way. You're probably going to get introduced to some electricity. It's like, and then drop. Actually, I take that back. For some of you, I highly recommend you try and do that, and then let me know. But make sure someone's filming. That'll be entertaining.
Yeah, definitely. Tasers. Apparently, Officer Alicia.
I managed to get hold of some hair grease and comb my hair back so that it looked a little better before they got any pictures. Man, I'd die if I got my picture in the paper with my hair looking so lousy. Derry and Soda Pop were in the pictures too. Jerry Wood told me that if Soda Pop and Derry hadn't been so good looking, they wouldn't have taken so many. That was public appeal, he said. Soda was really getting a kick out of all this. I guess he would have enjoyed it more if he hadn't been so serious, but he couldn't resist anything that caused that much excitement. I swear, sometimes he reminds me of a colt, a long-legged Palomino colt that has to get his nose into everything. The reporters stared at him admiringly. I told you he looks like a movie star. He kind of radiates. A colt meaning a horse, not a cold like the thing that makes you sneeze. We had an issue in first period with being confused.
I like Colt with a bunch of people or something.
Colt, C-U-L-T, yes. Colt, C-O-L-T is like a baby pony. Finally, even Soda Pop got tired of the reporters. He gets bored of the same old thing after a time, and stretching out on the long bench, he put his head in Derry's lap and just went to sleep. I guess both of them were tired. It was late at night, and I knew they hadn't had much sleep during the week. Even while I was answering questions, I remembered that it had been only a few hours since I was sleeping off a smoke in the corner of the church. Already it was an unreal dream, and yet, at the time, I couldn't have imagined any other world. Finally, the reporters started to leave, along with the police. One of them turned and asked, "All right, what would you do right now if you could do anything you wanted?" I looked at him tiredly. Take a bath. They thought that was pretty funny. but I meant it. I felt lousy. The hospital got real quiet after they left. The only noise was the nurse's soft footsteps and Soda's light breathing. Derry looked down at him and grinned half-heartedly. "He didn't get much sleep all week," he said softly. "He hardly slept at all." Soda said drowsily. "You didn't either." The nurses wouldn't tell us anything about Johnny and Dally, so Derry got hold of the doctor. The doctor told us that he'd only talk to the family, but Derry finally got it through the guy's head that we were about as much family as Dally and Johnny had. Dally'd be okay after 2 or 3 days in the hospital, he said. One arm was badly burned and would be scarred for the rest of his life, but he'd have full use of it in a couple of weeks. Dally'd be okay, I thought. Dallas is always okay. He could take anything. It was Johnny I was worried about. He was in critical condition. His back had been broken when that piece of timber fell on him, and he was in severe shock and suffering from 3rd-degree burns. They were doing everything they could to ease the pain, although since his back was broken, he couldn't even feel the burns below his waist. He kept calling for Dallas and Ponyboy. I mean, if he lived... Wait, if? Please, no, I thought. Not if. The blood was draining from my face, and Derry put an arm across my shoulder and squeezed hard. Even if he lived, he'd be crippled for the rest of his life. "You wanted it straight, you got it straight," the doctor said. "Now go home and get some rest." I was trembling. A pain was growing in my throat, and I wanted to cry. But greasers don't cry in front of strangers. Some of us never cry at all, like Dally and Two-Bit and Tim Shepard. They forgot how at an early age. Johnny, crippled for life? I'm dreaming, I thought in panic. I'm dreaming, and I'll wake up at a home or in the church, and everything will be like it used to be. But I didn't believe myself. Even if Johnny did live, he'd be crippled and never play football or help us out in a rumble again. He'd have to stay in the house he hated, where he wasn't wanted, and things could never be like they used to be. I didn't trust myself to speak. If I said one word, the hard knot in my throat would swell, and I'd be crying in spite of myself. I took a deep breath and kept my mouth shut. Soda was awake by then, and although he looked stony-faced, as if he hadn't heard a word the doctor had said, his eyes were bleak and stunned. Serious reality has a hard time coming through to Soda. When it does, it hits him hard. He looked like I felt when I had seen that black-haired Soch lying doubled up and still in the moonlight. Derry was rubbing the back of my head softly. "We better go home. We can't do anything here." In our Ford, I was suddenly overcome by sleepiness. I leaned back and closed my eyes, and we were home before I knew it. Soda was shaking me gently. "Hey, Ponyboy, wake up. You still got to get in the house." I said sleepily, and then lay down in the seat. I couldn't have gotten up to save my life. I mean, I could hear Soda and Derry, but as if from a great distance. "Oh, come on, Ponyboy," Soda pleaded, shaking me a little harder. "We're sleepy too." I guess Derry was tired of fooling around, because he just picked me up and carried me in. "He's getting mighty big to be carried," Soda said. I wanted to tell him to shut up and let me sleep, but I only yawned. "He sure lost a lot of weight," Derry said. I thought sleepily that I should at least pull off my shoes, but I didn't. I went to sleep the minute Derry tossed me on the bed. Man, I'd forgotten how soft a real bed really was. I was the first one up in the morning. Soda must have pulled my shoes and shirt off for me. I was still wearing my jeans. He must have been too sleepy to even undress himself, though. He lay stretched out beside me, fully clothed, and I wiggled out from under his arm and pulled the blanket up over him and then went to take a shower. Asleep? He looked a lot younger than going on 17, but I'd noticed that Johnny looked younger when he was asleep too, so I figured everyone did. Maybe people are younger when they're asleep. After my shower, I put on some clean clothes and spent 5 minutes or so hunting for a hint of beard on my face and mourning over my hair. That bum haircut made my ears stick out. and Derry was still asleep when I went into the kitchen to fix breakfast. The first one up has to fix breakfast, and the other two do the dishes. Right at the bottom of page 104. That's the rule around our house, and usually it's Derry who fixes breakfast, and me and Soda who are left with the dishes. I hunted through the icebox and found some eggs. We all like our eggs done differently. I like them cooked hard. Derry likes them in a bacon and tomato sandwich, and Soda Pop eats his eggs with grape jelly. All three of us like chocolate cake for breakfast. Mom had never allowed us ham and eggs, but Derry let Soda and me talk him into it. We really didn't have to twist his arm. Derry loves chocolate cake as much as we do. Soda Pop always makes sure there's some in the icebox every night. And if there isn't, he cooks one up real quick. I like Derry's cakes better. Soda Pop always puts too much sugar in the icing. I don't see how he stands jelly and eggs and chocolate cake all at once, but he seems to like it. Derry drinks black coffee, and Soda Pop and I drink chocolate milk. We could have coffee if we wanted it, but we like chocolate milk. All three of us are crazy about chocolate stuff. Soda says if they ever make a chocolate cigarette, then I'll have it made. Anybody home? A familiar voice called through the front screen, and Two-Bit and Steve came in. We always just stick our heads into each other's houses and holler hey and walk in. Our front door is always unlocked in case one of the boys is hacked off at his parents and needs a place to lay over and cool off. We never could tell who we'd find stretched out on the sofa in the morning. It was usually Steve, whose father told him about once a week to get out and never come back. Kind of bugs Steve, even if his old man does give him $5 or $6 the next day to make up for it. And nowadays money, that's closer to like $40. Whoa. So it's a little bit different. But still, this is Dad yelling at him and kicking him out, so I don't think he's real fond of it. Or it might be Dally, who lived anywhere he could. Once, we even found Tim Shepherd, leader of the Shepherd gang, and far from his own turf, reading the morning paper in the armchair. He merely looked up, said hi, and then strolled out without staying for breakfast. Two-Bit's mother warned us about burglars, but Derry, flexing his muscles that they bulged like oversized baseballs, drawled that he wasn't afraid of any burglars, and that we didn't really have anything worth taking. He'd risk a robbery, he said, if it meant keeping one of the boys from blowing up and robbing a gas station or something. So the door was never locked. In here, I yelled, forgetting that Derry and Soda Pop were still asleep. Don't slam the door. They slammed the door, of course, and Two-Bit came running into the kitchen. He caught me by the upper arms and swung me around, ignoring the fact that I had 2 uncooked eggs in my hand. Hey, Pony Boy, long time no see. You would have thought it had been 5 years instead of 5 days since I'd seen him last, but I didn't mind. I like old Two-Bit. He's a good buddy to have. He spun me into Steve, who gave me a playful slap on my bruised back and shoved me across the room. One of the eggs went flying. It landed on the clock, and I tightened my grip on the other one so that it crushed and ran all over my hand. Man, now look what you did. There went our breakfast. Can't you two wait till I set the eggs down before you go shoving me all over the country? And I really was a little mad because I just realized how long it had been since I'd eaten anything. The last thing I'd eaten was a hot fudge sundae at the Dairy Queen in Windricksville. Man, I was hungry. Two-Bit was walking in a slow circle around me, and I sighed because I knew what was coming. Man, Dig Baldy here. He was staring at my head as he circled me. I wouldn't have believed it. I thought all the wild Indians in Oklahoma had been tamed. What little squaw's got that tough-looking mop of yours, Pony Boy? Oh, man, lay off, I said. I wasn't feeling too good in the first place. Kind of like I was coming down with something. Two-Bit winked at Steve, and Steve said, Man, why'd he have to get a haircut to get his picture in the paper? They'd never believe a greasy-looking mug could be a hero. How do you like being a hero, big shot? How do I like what? Being a hero. You know. He shoved the morning paper at me. Like a big shot, even. I stared at the newspaper. On the front page of the second section was the headline, Juvenile Delinquents Turn Heroes. English teacher stops reading, lets class finish on their own the next 20 pages. Tomorrow we'll start on page 131. I figure it gives you guys time after I learn. If they don't let you do almost anything else, I figured might as well read. If you go past 131, that's fine. It just gives you less homework later on.